salvation. They'll never fade away. Say, I knew every morning that I knew every day. Oh, great is thy faithfulness. Oh, the Lord's amazing grace, it abounds in us every day. And His great mercies, they will never fade away. That I knew every morning. That I knew every day. Oh, great is thy faithfulness. My good buddy Mike rocking on lead guitar right here is going to bring something special. You may be seated. Good morning. If y'all would turn to your in your honky-tonk hymnal to page 130. We'll have a buddy of mine, Ronnie Caldwell. He retired from the same department. Actually, he worked for Public Works. I worked for the police department. Put in 25 years. How many did you have in, Ronnie?
25.
25. We did our time. But anyway, he's up. He just moved here. He lives in Foley, and he is a visitor, just like a lot of y'all here today. So this is his first time here, and thank y'all so much for coming. We're going to do an old standard song for you, and I surely would like for y'all to join in with us if you would.
Page number 130 in your honky-tonk hymnal, Amazing Grace. that acoustic.
When we've been here 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've known this day to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Y'all sing with us. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was blind, but now I see.
Wave Dalton there. Here's Johnny.
Good morning. There it is. Sorry, last minute running up there. Great job, band. Thank you so much. I'm John Mason Smith. I'm on staff here at the Flora-Bama Church. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you coming. We have a saying here that says it's okay to not be okay, and by that we mean you're okay just as you are to come, and we welcome you here. We consider you now part of our family. You go to a bar church if anybody asks. Hey, we have these. That's right. Hey, at the sides of our room, we have these information tables. If you're a first-time guest, or if you're a regular and you would like to get in a prayer request, ask for a next step card, and fill that out and put that in there. And also, if you want to join a group, or we have some new groups starting, or if you want to get more involved, we have at the beginning of next month, we're going to have a service Saturday. That's where we spend a Saturday helping the community. If you want to get signed up for any of that, fill out a next step card. You can leave it at the information table on either side of the room, or you can put those inside the giving stations, and we'll take that and either pray for your prayers or sign you up. Our giving stations, there's 3 of them. There's one right over there, one right over there, one outside there, and that's where you can also give an offering or gift back to us. Thank you for doing that. We use that money to feed families. We use that to reach people with the gospel behind bars. We use that money to rescue people here up and down the coast. All that money you get goes for one reason, and that's to introduce people to Jesus Christ and help them follow Him. And that's what we're all about here. Thank you for your generosity on that. Hey, I've got some volunteers I want to kind of spotlight tonight. I'm going to invite Manita and Bo Bowen to come on up. Come on up. Give them a hand. They got to walk in front of everybody. Touch the screen. Woo-hoo. Hey, Manita and Bo have been coming for a while now. Well, I don't know how long, at least 2 years. And they are just a big helper right now in the children's ministry upstairs. If you have kids between 6 weeks and 5th grade, we put them all upstairs in this little room with a couple of really good volunteers, many good volunteers. And these two are a big part of that ministry that we can count on. They have a great attitude. They help several times a month. Even Amanda says when she has to tear down, a lot of times they stick around and help her tear down. They're happy, they're joyful. It's nice having people like that here.
Nice hair, too. They got really nice hair.
Yeah, he's got real hair. So they've been through steps, and they were both baptized here in the Gulf of Mexico right behind us. It's part of our church. And I just want to thank y'all, and thank you publicly in front of everybody. Thank you so much. Awesome. Hey, a couple of people here are probably here for the first time, at least 2, right? I'm going to give one of you one of these T-shirts. And I heard I always ask them out front when I'm greeting, hey, where are you from? But we're going to give this to the farthest visitor who has never been to this church before. It's your first time here. Just raise your hand. How many people are in this contest? Oh, it's going to be a battle for sure. All right. I want to give this shirt to whoever came the furthest. Yell it out right now if you think you are it. North Carolina. Louisville, Kentucky. Jupiter, Florida? You're from this state. Okay. California might be doing it. California might be doing it.
Back. California wins.
Yes.
Well, I can't play.
All right, stand by for a reboot. Hey, there were two Californias. I'm going to stall so he can get it. Jordan up there on that keyboard that's not running anymore. We're in California. Yell it out. I heard you, but where's that at?
Yeah, right.
Where are you from over there, California? Bakersfield. I've heard of Bakersfield. They win. That's right.
Okay.
Hey, you can go buy these shirts for $15 at the gift shop. Everybody stand up. Find somebody you don't know further away from you and wish them a good morning.
Seated. Jordan is no stranger to this stage. He's going to sing you a song he wrote. It's very beautiful, you guys. Check it out.
Good morning. How are y'all? Good. Glad to hear it. It's always such a blessing to be at the Flora-Bama Church. It's fantastic. I've been singing here since I was 13, and love you guys. Thank y'all for letting me play for y'all. This is a song I wrote a couple months ago. I shouldn't say I wrote it because God gave it to me. If you catch on to the words, feel free to sing along. Above all names has come to make us whole, is moving in this place. The ruler of the world, he is inside of me, the one who conquered death, who makes all evil flee. place we can hide. The ruler of the world, His mercy overflows like honey in a hive. It's deep within our souls.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hate to follow that. 124 in your honky tonk hymnal.
awesome in power. I got stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God. What could stand against us? And if our God is for us, who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, what could stand against? Stand against. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. You are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God.
Yeah, thank you guys. Well, good morning, everybody. Everybody feeling good? We're so glad you guys are here. If this is your very first time, my name is Dan. I'm the pastor here at the Flora-Bama. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we've been in a series, everyone's favorite conversation, the 10 Commandments. It's been a lot of fun. How many of you guys have been in on at least one or two of those conversations we've been having? Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a very interesting little journey as we've been talking about it. If you've got your program, you can open it up right to the middle. And we're going to have what could potentially be the shortest sermon ever. You ready for this? Deuteronomy chapter 5, you must not murder. Agreed? All right, let's pray and go home. It's a pretty interesting statement, and it's very interesting that it ended up within those big 10, the 10 Commandments. Because if you have not been here, we've gone through 5 of the commandments so far, and they've been, man, it's been really good. And not just because I was the one saying the stuff, but the conversation's been very interesting. And to throw in something that seems what most of us would consider like common sense, and even within society, a big no-no. Forget for a moment whether you're a Christ follower today or you're not a Christ follower. You consider yourself a religious person, a church person, or you are the furthest thing from a religious or a church person, and you're here today. Either way, even within society, murder is looked upon as kind of a no-no. Right? It's not something that's accepted. In fact, we punish severely as a country. And so, remove the Bible for a moment, it's not an accepted way of life. It's punished harshly. And we've heard verdicts on terms about manslaughter, involuntary, voluntary, different degrees, getting life sentences, multiple life sentences for taking another person's life. Now, before we really jump in and really have this conversation on why God would place that literally right smack in the middle of these big 10 commandments that he was giving to these Israelite people, I want to make sure that we know what the Bible doesn't say. Because growing up, even though I did not grow up in church, I learned this verse differently. Now, I couldn't have told you maybe 3 or 4 of the 10 commandments, and 2 of them would have been probably wrong. I didn't grow up knowing the Bible, knowing church language, knowing the 10 commandments. But here's how I first heard this years before I ever walked into a church. Thou shalt not kill. How many guys heard it that way before, right? And so to say that would actually be a misinterpretation of what we translate in Deuteronomy chapter 5 as murder. Without going into the background of it, here is the best biblical definition of that word that some people have used to say murder. Some people have said kill. It's best translated murder. And when I was a kid, I've got military people in my family, and I was at odds with the idea you cannot kill, and yet I've got uncles and friends and friends' relatives that were going off defending our country, and there was lives being taken. So how does that work? Right? How does that work? How does that work in defense of your family? And so how does all of that work? Because kill seems like a life taken at all. The best biblical definition, the original word, the Hebrew word for the word that people would translate murder or kill is best translated murder, and it means this: to intentionally take a life as a result of malice or hate. Does that make sense? To take another life because of malice or hate. So it is much better interpreted murder. Big deal. God puts it right in there. Now, in order to talk about this and for it to make any sense whatsoever, we have to talk about these Hebrew people, the Israelites, and we first have to talk about their leader. Now, there was this unbelievably evil king, also called a pharaoh, in Egypt around the time that this was written. And this man, who led at the time the military superpower of the world, Egypt. Not only were they the military superpower, they also the economic superpower of the day. And so they often would do whatever they could to maintain the king of the hill status, whatever it took. So, the Hebrew people are a great example of what happened. They were in close proximity to the Egyptian people, and they began, in population-wise, to outnumber the Egyptian people. Well, that means many more people who could rise up, create some kind of army, and overthrow Egypt. Egypt wasn't having that. So what they did was enslave the Hebrew people. And one of the ways that they were able to do that was population control. Now, this wasn't the first group of people that they had done that to. The reason Egypt was so powerful was because they had one attitude: take over anything and everything we can by whatever means necessary. You raise in power, you elevate your status by taking. And so they would literally, through military force and murder and pillaging, would take over nations to snuff out other armies. Because you know what happens to the bully when the bully has been bullying this kid and that kid gets bigger than the bully? Who does that kid go after first? The bully. You know what I mean? The bully. And so, in order for Egypt not to one day become slaves themselves to someone else in power, they kept on running over people groups, taking what yours is now mine, and we will put our foot on your neck and we will not let it up. And so there was this way of life that eventually came. Now, these Israelite people were starting to outnumber them, so this evil king, Pharaoh, planned a mass genocide of children 2 years and younger. And here was his command to his military army. Guys, these people, there's too many of them. Even if they can't strengthen themselves enough to rise up an army and overtake us, all they have to do is get in good with one of our enemies. And when we go to war with one of our enemies, all of these slaves will turn on us. And the slaves plus the enemy, they're going to overtake us. And so the way that we can control them is by snuffing out their population and the ability for men to rise up to be warriors and create an army. So the command went out. Every boy 2 years and younger was to be drowned in the Nile River. Population control, power control. If we can keep them smaller than us and weaker than us, we can continue to control them. And so the order went out, and we don't know exactly how many, but hundreds and thousands of children, 2 years and younger, were ripped from their parents' hands and drowned in the Nile River. Now, this one family was one step ahead of the game, and they had built a small little boat basket, and they had placed their newly born son, so newly born he had not even been named yet, in this little basket. And big sister went with that basket kind of down the Nile River to where Pharaoh's daughter would go often to bathe. And in a last-ditch effort of hoping that the daughter would have mercy on this poor innocent child, they pushed it right up to where this woman would bathe. And so sure enough, she comes down and she sees a basket, strange thing to be floating down the Nile River. She sends one of her maidservants over to open it, opens it up, and there's this Hebrew baby boy. And she knows, as well as everyone else, this baby, why that baby's in that basket, because its life is supposed to be ended. So she has mercy on this baby and raises this child to be her own. And because she drew him out of the water, she named him a name that sounded like, in that language, to draw out, which is the word Moses. And Moses was raised in this palace under Pharaoh and Pharaoh's daughter, so kind of raised as grandbaby to the king, an evil king with intents of murder, overthrowing governments, just taking by force whatever needs to be taken by force. Well, the Bible says about the age of 40, Moses goes out to his people, and he believes God has actually chosen him to lead his people out of Egypt. Now, that's a big deal for Moses because Moses grew up in Egypt. He grew up with the best of the best of the best, the finest that Egypt had to offer, because he was the kind of adopted grandson of the king. And Moses, growing up in this culture, knew really one thing: power through oppression. You get what you want by taking it from others. That's his whole lifestyle. That's what he saw. That's what he knew. Now, we don't know if Moses was ever part of the military force, but he at least heard rumors, hey, we're going out to fight against these people. And then he would see them time and time again come back victorious with all of the cattle and all of the grain, all of the vineyards, with all of the money. And now those people are slaves to Moses' people, the Egyptians, right? So Moses knew one thing: you get by taking, by force, by power, by oppression. So he gets this unbelievable call from God to lead God's people out of Egypt. In other words, he's going to turn his back on his own family, and he's going to lead the people that he was born to into freedom. God is going to rescue them through Moses. That's unbelievable. So Moses is trying to figure out, how do I show Egypt that I'm serious here? How do I show them that their kings are not God, but there is one true God, the creator of the heavens and the earth? How do I show them that I'm the one that's been chosen? So here's what he does. He does what he knows to do. And the Bible states this: that Moses went out at age 40, and he saw one of his Hebrew people being beaten by an Egyptian slave master. And to show everyone that that's not going to happen anymore, he murders the Egyptian slave master. Why didn't he just stop it and then rescue this kid that's getting beat? Why didn't he just intervene? He had all the power in the world, because when you grow up and you learn to take by force and to kill an entire group of people is no big deal, when you want something done, you murder to show them who's really in charge here. So Moses murders another man to try to help God out in rescuing God's people. And about 2-3 months into this whole thing, Moses is on a mountaintop. There's about 3 million, some historians estimate upwards of 3 million of these slaves are no longer slaves. And at the base of this mountain, Moses goes up to this mountain, and God starts telling him, Moses, I've got a new way for you to live. Don't worship all these other gods like the Egyptians did. Worship the one true God. Don't make all these other idols. You're worshiping all these idols like the Egyptians did. Don't take God's name in vain. If you're going to be a carrier of my name, represent my name well. And I know for the past hundreds of years, your people, Moses, these people, their parents, their grandparents, their great-great-great-grandparents have been enslaved from sunup to sundown 7 days a week just to make ends meet. Moses, you don't have to live like that anymore. Take a day. Take a day off to worship, and I'll take care of you. You don't have to work yourself literally to death. And last week, we jumped into the 5th commandment, which is all about honor and family, and God is setting up this new way to live. And then all of a sudden, right in the middle, it's, hey, if you guys could do me a favor, try not to be killing each other, that'd be great. Now, I don't know if you have kids or not. I've got kids. And sometimes we have, hey, maybe separate these kids. When I was a kid, my mom had some, I love my mom. And she has some very unconventional parenting methods. I don't know a better way to say that. Any of you guys have some unconventional parents? My mom, we'd get into, I have 3 sisters, and so I did a lot of Barbie playing when I was a kid, and no one would play G.I. Joes or Catch Me. But, is this guy over here got 3 sisters too? Oh, 2 sisters? Yeah, I feel you, man, I feel you. So, I did a lot of Barbie playing, dolls, house, and I would, after you get frustrated with your sisters. I love them. I love all 3 of them. Even to this day, we're all, we're all on good terms. But man, there'd be some days I'd want to knock those girls out. And my mom would kind of just let us scuffle a little bit. I couldn't hit my sisters. They were free to hit me, but I couldn't hit them, So as God is my witness, at a garage sale one day, my mom would drag us to garage sales sometimes, and we're sitting there, and my mom grabs, I couldn't make this up. It's too good of a story to make up. She bought us 2 sets of boxing gloves. And she said, hey, you guys can get an argument, you can go outside and finish it yourselves. I thought, yeah, a little bit of padding and knocked my sisters out, and we did it, man, we did it. And this verse, you must not murder, is much more than Dad, our Heavenly Father, up there saying, hey, try not to kill each other down there. It's not good. The weight of you must not murder goes beyond, because when I read that, I think the first thing I think to myself is, I'm good. It's never been on my calendar to do that. It's never been I never thought it was a good idea. In fact, I have watched famous and not famous verdicts come in about people who have murdered, and thought to myself, how do you get to that spot? I would never do that. And I would say most of society would say the same thing. I would never do that. And even those that have, there was a day where that didn't even cross their minds they would ever get to the spot for, out of malice, taking the life of another. But me, I've never even been in that position before, and And so it's very easy to kind of just be like, well, what's the next commandment? I got that one taken care of. But there is so much more going on than just, hey, try not to murder each other. Because to this group of people who have seen nothing but oppression for hundreds of years and have watched what was modeled for them was a country that took by force, was a country that if you wanted, you put your foot on someone's neck and you pushed until they say, I give. And once they give, you not only take everything they've got, but you enslave them. And if we have to slaughter a whole bunch of them, that's just collateral damage. It's not that big of a deal. And God was speaking to this 3 million, upwards of 3 million people saying, hey, it is a big deal. I am going to lay out for you a way to live that is going to be different than the society that you know and that you've seen and that you become accustomed to. It carries much more weight. In fact, there's this a disciple of Jesus. He had picked these 12 guys to be with him for about 3.5, 4 years, and he had poured his life into these 12 guys, and 11 of them stayed true to Christ, and they ended up spreading the message of the love of God to all parts of the known world. And to be honest with you, because of those 11 guys, that message eventually made it to us here in America. That's pretty awesome. Now, one of those guys' name was John. John was very, very tight with Jesus. Jesus was tight with all 12 of those guys, but there were 3. It seemed like Jesus spent a lot of time with Peter, James, and John. Now, this guy John wrote some letters. And we've been able to gather a few of those letters, and we've got them in what the Bible is considered the New Testament, the second half of the Bible. And if you, in your program, you'll see one of things that John wrote will shed some light on the weight of what God was saying to these people when he said, you must not murder. He says this, John says, if we love our brothers and sisters who are believers, it proves that we have passed from death to life. In other words, let me say it this way. Do you want to know that a person is spiritually alive on the inside and not spiritually dead? Love marks their life. But a person who has no love is still dead. Of course, he's talking spiritually. Anyone who hates another brother or sister is really a murderer, where? At heart. Forget about the action of taking another person's life. Hate is actually murder in your heart, John says. And you know that murderers don't have eternal life within them. In other words, they're spiritually dead. And then John says, we know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we ought to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. If someone, for example, if someone has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need but shows no compassion, how can God's love even be in that person? Dear children, in other words, hey guys, we're all in this together as a family. Let's not merely say we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. John takes the idea of murder and unpacks it in a way that makes every person reading this letter and us today think of that in a completely different way. Now, let me be very clear. I think you must not murder. I think it's a sin. And I think God views it as a sin as well. Now, it's not unforgivable by any means. God forgives. But I do think it is sin. The Bible calls it sin. But there is so much more weight to that word that John brings out. Because we're not just talking about now taking another person's life. Now it gets to our heart. And that sucks. Because it would have been just easier for me to get up here and be like, are you guys good with the whole murder thing? Okay, if we could all leave here today and try not to do that, that'd be great. And then the case is closed. But now God starts meddling in our business a little bit. And he gets past the don't take another person's life, and he gets to our hearts, and he says, hey, let me tell you what's really going on, what's really behind this whole thing. It has to do with your hearts. And if I'm really honest, and if I can just tell you something, over the last few weeks as I have been praying and thinking about today, as I've been reading 1 John over and over and over for several weeks now, asking God, what is it you want me to say? Do you know what kept coming to my mind the entire time? It wasn't what I should say. It was the people that I have not loved well, if I'm being honest. Because I don't know if there's anybody in your life like this, but I got some people in my life that I don't love very well. I'd rather not be in the same room with them. I don't know if you've ever looked on Facebook and you're scrolling or you're sliding up your Instagram feed, and all of a sudden you see someone's face that you wish you could reach right through that screen and hug them and love them. No, and knock them out, right? Get you some boxing gloves. And I've got some of those people in my life. And I don't know, I can't for sure tell you that I hate them, but I can tell you this. This is not true of me all the time. 1 John 3, right in the middle of that, it says, we know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we ought to give up our lives for others. And if I'm really being honest, and if I'm really looking at that verse, I can say that there's a lot of people I love really well. But there are some others that I don't. And I'm not going to plan their demise. Or at least I'm not going to tell anyone about it if I do, you know. I'm not going to plan, and I'm not going to pray harm comes upon them. I'm not going to even laugh if harm does come upon them. But I don't love them well. And if I'm really being honest, there's some people that I probably need to forgive beyond just ignoring them. And if I'm being really honest, I'll say often, love does not control my life. See, I've got these 5 kids, and they're awesome. I heard it said once, when you have kids, you see the best of yourself in your kids, and you see the worst of yourself in your kids, you know? And that's definitely true. And I hate to admit it, but I don't always say the things that I know a great parent should say in the tone that I should say it to my 5 kids, who I love so much. I'd give my life for those kids. Like that. Wouldn't even be hesitation. But see, there's areas of my heart where God's love does not control. And I hold resentment sometimes at people, and I stay, let's think of a nice word, I stay annoyed at people sometimes for more than a few minutes, you know, days and years. No. So I don't know if you have any conflict like that in your life, but because it isn't acted out upon, we give ourselves a pass sometimes, don't we? I do. I give myself a pass. I'm not really going to hit that. I'd like to, but I'm not going to do it. So I kind of pat myself on the back, just glad I didn't hit them, you know? And I would never take their life before. I mean, I'd fantasized about it, but I would never actually do it, you know? But there's some accesses that I need God to take in my heart. Because there's some people that I need to just let some stuff go about. And there's some people I've been holding on to stuff too long, and they've frustrated me too long. And I don't know if there's anybody like that in your life that you think about their name, and it's like nails on a chalkboard. you want anything to do with them. You don't want to hear their name. When you hear their name, anger stirred up on the inside of you. You know, I had, in thinking about today, I had right here, like right at this part of the message, I had a hilarious story to tell you. But you're not getting it, okay? Because I felt like the best thing we can leave thinking about today, we need to think about the people we love for sure. But the best thing we could do is leave today thinking about some of those people that we have not loved well. And I'd rather not. I'd rather not think about them because I have to do something about it. And here's the really good news. At the end of the day, it has really nothing to do with what they've done, because loving them and forgiving them has everything to do with you. And that's good news, because then you can control that. Because if it was all on them, if you had to wait for them to come say you're sorry, you may be waiting till forever. But you don't have to wait for them to apologize. You don't have to wait for them to take it back. You don't have to wait for them to call. You don't have to wait for anything. You can just open up your heart, and I can just open up my heart and let God have access to the places we may have not let him have access before, so that we can love people well. And listen, I know it's tough to love difficult people. And I know it's tough to forgive people that don't deserve forgiveness. And I know it's tough when they have done wrong, but they are taking no responsibility for what they've done. I get that that's difficult. And I'm not even saying it's going to be easy. But when we open our hearts to give God access and to pour out his love in us, then we can love others. And can I just tell you what helps me? I forget sometimes how much I've been forgiven. Because I don't know your story, but I've been forgiven a lot. How dare I hold another person's sins against them when God doesn't hold my sins against me? How dare I not love others well when I am loved so unconditionally with no strings attached? I am forgiven before I even ask for it. God has forgiven me so much and loves me in spite of myself. How can I not love someone else? We forget how much we're loved when we don't deserve it, and how much we've been forgiven when we don't deserve it. So the question I think we leave here asking ourselves, all from "you must not murder," is, does Christ truly have access to all of our hearts in a way that causes us to love those we don't want to, those that don't deserve it, those that aren't asking for it, and those we'd rather not? I can tell you this. God knows what he's talking about, and when he laid out, "you must not murder," and Peter brings it back to the heart, I can promise you this: God will allow you and I for the rest of our lives to hold on to hate and anger and bitterness. He'll let you do it. He will allow you to not forgive and to push people aside, and he will allow you to hang on to that and carry it the rest of your life. But it is not the best way to live, because when you don't forgive, you enslave yourself. Just what God was telling these Hebrew people: don't enslave yourselves to hate. Remember how terrible slavery was? You may be free, but don't enslave yourself to hate again, and to anger and to unforgiveness, because that stuff will choke the very life out of your soul. So what do we do now? We open our hearts and give God access. Let his love spill over into your heart, so that that love can then spill on to others. Let me say a prayer for you guys today, if you would. Father, I am so grateful for all the love and the forgiveness that you have given me. May I do the same for another. God, would you have access? I give you complete access to my heart. Give me your love so I may love those that are difficult for me to love right now. I pray that for myself. I pray that for my family. I pray that for this church family. May we love well those that are difficult to love. May we forgive those that we do not want to. And may we always be reminded that we're forgiven and we are loved. Pray these things in Jesus' name. And the Flora-Bama family said, amen.
Thank you, Dan. Hey, folks, thanks again for coming. I'm going to need your help at while the next song is playing. If you wouldn't mind, grab some chairs and bring them over to this side. They'll go in that closet and over there in that cubby. Hey, we say this every week, and it's true. Romans 8 tells us, if God is for us, who can be against us? We'll see you next week.
You have a blessed week. Some bright morning when this life is over, my way to that home on God's